Kryptonana, exit liquidity hodl nana, dump it all. Kryptonana, exit liquidity hodl nana, dump it all.
Kryptonana, exit liquidity,
dump it all.
hodl nana, dump it all. From the day we arrive on the blockchain and blinking step into the trade, there's more to lose than can never be won, more to dump than can never be saved. Influencers, tweets, and the noobs all follow, buying high, selling low at a game. But the boomers know, and Sailor, he knows that the dump is coming. It's all the same. It's the circle of exit liquidity, and it moves us all through despair and hope, through faith and FOMO, till we find our place on the path unwinding in the circle of exit liquidity. Some of us fall by the wayside, and some of us soar to the stars. But the influencers always win with the Lambos and their cars. So beware of the pump and the inevitable dump, for the cycle continues and the news get wrecked. Kryptonana, exit liquidity hodl nana, dump it all. Kryptonana, exit liquidity hodl nana, dump it all. Kryptonana, exit liquidity, dump it all. hodl nana, dump it all. It's the circle of exit liquidity, and it moves us all through despair and hope, through faith and FOMO, till we find our place on the path unwinding in the circle of exit liquidity.
So, hey everyone, welcome. It was perfectly timed, by the way. Welcome to Digital Cash Rundown episode, was it 16? I'm joined by Kurt. We'll do the official intro, but in a second. But I'll filibuster for the chewing.
Thank you.
But it just reminded me of every single time you go out to eat at a restaurant, and then the host or hostess is like hiding behind the column and just waits for the. So how's everyone's food today? And they're like,
right.
Like,
I'm good. Yeah.
It's got to be deliberate. So yeah, I kind of I never worked in the service industry, but I might as well with this impeccable sense of timing.
Oh, I worked at TGI Fridays, man. That was like peak. This is what a restaurant is.
Yes. Is there a more American establishment than that, or Chili's, or
it's
Denny's? RIP.
Right. Yeah. No, it is peak Americana circa 20 years ago. I feel like people don't really go out to eat anymore, but yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I have a comment here from Decentralized Creative. Hi. It says, I forgot I left the pod playing in the background and almost had a heart attack when the Circle of Exit Liquidity started playing at full volume. Yes. For those who don't know, I had an AI song commissioned about last May or so. Circle of Life parody, Circle of Exit Liquidity, and it's perfection, right? It's absolutely great. And I accidentally, as I tell every time, got it made as like the intro song for this podcast, but then I can't switch it because I lost my original intro graphic. And so I'm like, all right, well, I guess we're starting at every show this way, and it's pretty perfect. So what do you say? Do you think we should roll the actual intro credit and actually get going?
Hey, kick it off, man. It's your show.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so officially then, welcome everyone. This is the Digital Cash Rundown, episode 216, joined by the illustrious Kurt Wuckert, but not just Kurt Wuckert, the junior. And
yes.
How's it going, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Very good. Just a lot of stuff going on, and we've definitely got a lot of stuff to power through because it's been an entertaining thing. So let me just quickly get the actual shill out of the way for Coin ATM Radar because they're very happy to sponsor this podcast. And make sure when you're buying crypto with cash, an ATM is much more reliable and safer than meeting some random person in a random place. And unlike an exchange, which could freeze your account, you truly do own all the crypto you buy. With Coin ATM Radar, you can find crypto ATMs and other services where you can buy or sell cryptocurrencies for cash. And on the website, look by coin address if an ATM supports selling, as well as buying. And you can search by geographical area, such as country, state, and city, and compare and check actual current fees at different ATMs. CoinATMRadar.com, which is CoinATMRadar.com. And I used to sometimes pepper in random things about like it's much better than meeting with someone in person and getting shanked, just to keep things interesting. And my clips guy made a little jingle about that. CoinATM Radar, don't get shanked. And I forgot to cue it up this time, but next time I will actually put that in there, and I'll wait until I get complaints from them being like, "Yo, you need to dial it back." So yeah, that's that.
Yep.
So there's nothing really like. There's been a Maxi meltdown. It's been pretty crazy. So the Bitcoin maximalist world has been upset over there's been this like hijacking Bitcoin thing during the block size wars, which from a BTC perspective they won, and then it came back when Hijacking Bitcoin the book was released, and right around Roger Vere's whole imprisonment, pardon campaign, and then damage control against that. And then with the Epstein files, it's round 3. So before we jump to some of these, headlines or posts on that, what's your what do you got to say about all that?
I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, this is absolute confirmation. Like Roger's book was great. Laid out the same story that if you were on crypto Twitter or Reddit or whatever during that year, it was sort of a retelling, a romantic retelling of the blockchain war. But now that people get to actually see the conversations had between lots of people and Jeffrey Epstein in the deliberate attempt to take over, at the very least, we see TradFi lizards of the worst regard doing whatever they can to explicitly hijack Bitcoin by taking over the developers at the MIT Digital Currency Initiative and then Blockstream, and that there was not any resistance to it, really. I mean, well, the people that resisted it got kicked out, but the people who didn't resist are now, CEO of Blockstream. And so it's no longer speculation. It's no longer, well, Roger's just full of crap and all those big blockers are scammers. It's literally like, oh, wow, Austin Hill and Jeffrey Epstein were quite close, and Austin Hill was the operational head of Blockstream. Adam Beck has always been a puppet CEO for anybody that pays attention. The guy running the business is Austin, and the guy running the tech was always Gregory Maxwell until he retired, and now it's just is what it is. I don't think Blockstream's done much of anything special in the last few years. So, but during its most important era, it was Austin and Gregory running the whole show for sure.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing about this whole thing is, crypto as a whole, Bitcoin obviously being the one that started everything off, is supposed to be a revolt against the current financial system. And obviously peer-to-peer electronic cash system, no intermediaries and third parties, like all that stuff in the white paper, I think makes it clear. But if it wasn't clear enough, Satoshi dropped the Genesis block about the chancellor bailing out the banks, like to be like an explicitly kind of political statement on that. And it does seem that like being the well-connected financier of the old world, investing in and working with the future of this currency, it does. I have to say, it does leave what we're seeing, in my opinion, is it leaves a very bad taste in their mouth, and that's kind of the extent of it. But that's enough to have them ask questions. Now, what do you think? How much more than just a bad taste in the mouth is it? How much more is it than I mean, not to start on a 3-hour rant from here, but like in a sentence, how much more is it than just, oh, these people were cozy with the old financial system and those kinds of people? And how much more do you think the Epstein part specifically was related to hijacking?
Well, I mean, it's literally just confirmation. Like, I've talked about this this is like the cornerstone of my public profile is pointing out that like, why AXA Insurance? Why did AXA Insurance lead the round for Blockstream's angel round, especially when Henri de Castries, their CEO, was also the president of the Bilderberg Group? To me, I'm like, hey, that's an inherent conflict of interest, and people, immediately the small blocker bots on social just jump up and start saying, well, you're just a scammer, you're just jealous, and whatever else. And now it's funny, all of a sudden those bots are spinning back up. I've been posting the last couple of days, and now all of a sudden I'm targeted by the small blocker, semi bot and semi dolt minion army is doing the exact same thing. And so very obviously somebody is spinning up the bots on PR damage control, because this is nonsense. This is exactly what we said was happening. And now, I mean, it's indisputable. Like, the entire hijacking Bitcoin narrative is indisputable. And where does that leave them?
Yeah, the indisputable, it leaves them with a lot of hand waving to do. That's for sure. But that's not going very far. And the funny thing I should, point out here is our good friend, Laura Loomer, who is a political figure, a right-wing political figure in the U.S., kind of maybe not favorably viewed by a lot of people, kind of definitely has a lot of lip injections. She's rough. Yeah. She like not only a little bit grim to look at, but with the reach, right?
But she's prickly, but very influential, obviously. Quite a powerful voice.
Yes. 1.8 million followers on X. She swear Marius.eth, who I guess he's mostly an ETH guy, as I see these days, but he was a Bitcoin casher at least, sharing the whole hijacking Bitcoin stuff about how Gavin Andreessen was talking with the CIA and at some point, and then kind of where that goes from there. And she says, was Roger Ver right? Did the feds hijack Bitcoin? Like, dude, this is a blessing from the Lord. God be praised, right? This is
right.
It's pretty funny. This was under 3 hours ago, and there's a lot of fun, positive comments on here. And then you start to scroll down enough, and then you start to see the cope, as it were.
Yeah. Well, and also that they're rolling out their old influencers too. Francis Pulio is doing an interview trying to play the old playbook. It's like he's using the 2017 playbook about the corporate takeover of Bitcoin. It's like, bro, we know you guys were raising money from Eric Schmidt and Reid Hoffman and Peter Thiel and Vinod Kozla, like literally the lions of Silicon Valley, and like, so trying to make the argument that Bitcoin and Coinbase or whatever are the corporate takeover of Bitcoin relative to your camp.
Yeah.
it's bonkers, just total insanity.
It's definitely projection. Like I do, like where people's projection is a classic case of where people's mindsets are at, and so people are thinking about like, oh, you're just trying to do this because you probably cheat on your wife. Like, why are you bringing that up? Why are you thinking about that? Like, oh, you
probably character defamation. All right, I'm over the target.
Yes, it is. It is kind of funny. I have to admit, I have not done anywhere near as the depth of research into the connections that you have. But is this Francis Cat, who's been around for a long time, is he associated directly with Blockstream and some of these other entities, or is this more of like the greater sphere of, as it were, useful idiots?
You know what? I'm not actually sure how deep his connections go. I know he advises on lots of stuff, meaning he gets a token payment to be a guy to sign off on a narrative, I'm sure. But he's the founder of Bull Bitcoin and some other things. And he was a more prominent voice. I don't know if he still is. I've probably been blocked by him for the last 5 years. So if he's significant, I wouldn't see it anymore. But you know, he's one of those guys though, right? It's like the Jimmy Songs or the who's the guy with the terrible Caesarean haircut, Tone Vase. Like those kind of guys who are, you know, they're not members of Blockstream, but they would have been, like, if they were going to have one of their meat dinners, they'd be invited to go hang out with the Blockstreamers, you know?
Yeah, what's in that meat though? That's the real question.
Who could know? Yeah.
Yes. That part at least is ended encrypted. But yeah, as far as you pointed out with the quote said, this guy's peak study in danger of giving weak men any modicum of influence. He claims big blockers were the Silicon Valley attempt to hijack Bitcoin, while obviously failing to state that Epstein, I love that term by the way, was funded by Eric Schmidt, Reid Hoffman, Vinan Khosla, etc. And I think that, listen, as much as I like to be fair, there is a certain amount of immaturity I will have to exhibit on the show. And as part of that, I have noticed that the Bitcoin maximalist crowd has very thin necks. I've noticed a lot of this. I think I even pointed out when you were on the show at one point. And it's like, I mean, I'm not a jack dude myself, but it's not the maxi neck, you know? Sure.
Yeah, you know, they fancy themselves cypherpunks, and I think if you get over a certain amount of you know, muscle to bone structure ratio, you just no longer qualify as a cypherpunk. So they have to be very careful to not to do too much to fill in the frame if we're being kind about it.
Although, to be completely fair, as the one big like exception to that rule might be Robert Breedlove, who again blocked me forever ago. And he has more neck than head, and so that dude definitely hits the gym. So maybe, you know, to walk back my physical commentary pettiness there for a second.
No, it's fair, and that's the thing, is that nobody's a monolith, and it's funny, but when you look at any of these organizations, like there's always a standout character, but if you were to look at the mean, like somewhere in the average, like your average person there is, you know, very clearly. Really the kind of person that would be targeted by Jeffrey Epstein, right? Like the kind of person who is intelligent, maybe not so great with the girls, and saying, hey, how would you like to be more rich and meet some more ladies at the same time? Like that's a pretty easy piece of bait when you're in a situation where you might not be particularly wealthy or particularly good with the girls on your own. So that's why those sorts of things work.
Yeah, and now I've noticed, and I have to throw up my own post up on the screen just as an example, because I did this like Bitcoin Jesus coming out of some like borderline sacrilegious, but all on the point of all in good fun kind of thing, and you know, great for engagement as it turns out, because you have tons of, you know, people coming in and saying stuff, and I was very sassy, you know, in the comments, just because it's, you know, it's in this case it's kind of fun too, but I have noticed that the turnout of, I hesitate to say bots, because while as you mentioned, there are a lot of actual bots, but also characters I recognize, I've seen them over the years pop up. Now, this is the greater question, which I don't know if we have the answer to. We probably don't. But how much of the greater maxi sphere is directly tied into and kind of maybe not on the payroll, but maybe on the payroll of some of these some of these ruling entities, and how much of it is just people who are incentivized to see BTC go up in price, therefore they come out to defend it, and they just happen to be like, community, right?
Right. Well, that's actually how you do this kind of psyop, right? Like you get the people that are the managerial level who are in on it, and then you create an incentive structure to get normal people to accept your narrative. Like, it's the same as, did Russian bots get Trump elected? And it's like, there were probably Russian bots involved, but then actual people are like, yeah, I'm going to join that team, right? And so when you look at the average person that got into Bitcoin maybe in 2020 or whatever, like most people joined during bull runs. So we've had 2 big run-ups since the block size war, where people have joined and probably didn't have any context at all, except, maybe a vague understanding of Roger Ver's an enemy to Bitcoin or something. And then they see this narrative pop up, and then they show up to do the defense thing because they all read, the Bitcoin Standard or one of those other books that was the thing that orange pilled them on BTC. And so they're just repeating the dogma, right? Like this is like public school kids advocating for more taxes so their teachers can get paid more. It's just like, it's this vicious system that you've been sort of ingratiated into. And I've actually talked to a couple of people in the last few days who are like, wow, I didn't know any of this happen. And they've been involved in the Bitcoin space for 5 or 6 years, right? And it's funny how that kind of thing can just get memory hold because you just entered the conversation after it. So I think there's definitely room for some grace on people that just don't know. But then to quantify it, who knows? Is it 50-50? Is it 80-20? Like, who knows? I'm sure there's a lot of predatory people with their predatory crew, organizing in a Telegram chat or whatever to attack the big blockers. And then, but who knows? It would be impossible to audit as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. And the funny thing about all this is the reason why this ends up being a subject matter when there's so many more productive things we could be talking about is it's the perfect nexus of, kind of TMZ level popcorn, hating fun stuff. And it's a very deep kind of like movement and psychological examination of how like these movements happen. And I've noticed like the same people, like I think I could count on both hands probably, maybe a little more, but close to that, the number of people who I've seen through the years in that kind of like maxi grifter camp type thing. And you kind of see like the same small patchwork. But as far as like the army of what they're known as the plebs, most of these people are not OGers. And by OG, I don't mean like 2013 era. I don't mean 2010 era. I don't like they're not even 2017 era. Like born of the block size wars. Like these are 2021 era. That's where you see most of these people come from.
Yep. Well, and I think that's interesting too. Like you see, for example, the Hodl was a very influential figure 6 years ago, and he became bigger and bigger, and now seeing him like ripping on Adam back in public, like demanding, like listen, dude, you need to have a statement that's better than the crap that you said about how you appeared in the Epstein files, right? And then I think to a lot of people, they're not even necessarily sure who he is because he was a generation before this current crop of rabid, toxic, whatever the heck. And, or guys like Peter McCormick, he's gone, like he's not even really involved in the Bitcoin space anymore. And some of these other people that were very significant a few years ago are just doing something else with their lives now. And there's this fresh crop. And I think it's funny because I can think of so many people who said, explicitly, me and you are the scammers who are going to disappear when the grift ends. And like me and you have been around for at least a decade in public now, and it's funny to see the people that actually care about the technology and the culture and the all of this stuff and make a living here because we actually care about the tech versus the tourists who probably got involved in a bull run and are therefore still down on their basic investment, and they feel like, okay, I need to join the chorus to get myself into the profit here. And then when they take profits, they're generally going to bail, right? So
Yeah, I think it's not even so much that. It's like, well, yes, obviously, but there were a group of people who got into the idea of uncensorable money back in like our era, right?
Yeah.
And it's the next version of that bought into a more weird, watered down version. And
Yep.
I think that part of it is, first of all, when you have a pleb army, the pleb army does what it does. Like it's a mob. There's risks to using it, right? And
Right.
this part of what happened is in 2017, when the block size war was sort of concluded, at least the first round, it was never Bitcoin as money versus Bitcoin as not money. It was two different visions of how Bitcoin as money and payments should work. And a lot of everything was sort of pushed off to just wait for Lightning. Just wait for Lightning, and then
Right.
that'll be the real thing that works. When Lightning came out, I did notice the same people who were hand waving away about, oh, just start a tab, all this stuff. Like they came back to payments because now they had a product, right? Which is
Right.
Lightning apps. And so a lot of these people who came in 2021 bull market peak era are digital cashers, but
Sure.
just don't understand what that should mean. And they turned into the Knots Brigade after, which
Yes.
is now a thorn in their side.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? Look at the Bolshevik Revolution, and this is what I said was going to happen. Like they treated UASF, the user activated soft fork, had all kinds of Bolshevik vibes about it. And we're the general strike, we're the union of real Bitcoiners and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, bro, we've seen how this plays out. Your first round of revolutionaries are in charge for like 2 or 3 years before they all get culled by the next more vicious group that shows up. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Your Knots people are they're rabid on this notion that they were taught and fed 5 years ago, 6, 7 years ago. And now they're looking at it and they're getting stabbed in the back by Bitcoin Core the exact same way that we were. And so it's funny, like, what are they? They're going to fork off or something, we don't really know how that plays out. Right. But it could play out in a similar fashion where then there's a new, Bitcoin Knots, we're the real Bitcoin, blah, 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 run your node, run your code, and, just all the nonsense. And it's just this weird repeating cycle of trying to leverage the control of the core Bitcoin zeitgeist and get it away from these terrible people that have been in control of it for, frankly, 2/3 of its life at this point.
Yeah. That's the part that gets really sort of interesting is everyone has a financial motivation, or everyone with I think that a lot of like the plebs don't have a non-financial motivation, even though they do also have that. But a lot of people have, a lot of the elites, I would say, have that. And the funny thing is the hijacking of Bitcoin has not necessarily been a constant ongoing process necessarily. It's been like the financial interest. I don't know, like if you would consider this a financial interest thing. Now, if you do believe in the more like conspiracy side of things, of like it was just to ruin Bitcoin and that's it, then everything makes sense, right?
Sure.
The world tends to be very simple there. But I would argue that Blockstream was a legitimate company, for example, Blockstream, and Lightning Labs and all that were legitimate companies that did try to get involved with the hijacking of Bitcoin and everything of that, so they'd have a product market fit. And they didn't really make money in the end. They kind of screwed up. And then now it's just like, oh, well, who's the next level of things? Oh, let's get a DAT going, or let's get Citrea going. But there's a little bit of a looseness to the hijacking today where it's not quite as much of like, we need this to make all this money. It's kind of like, well, some people are trying this, some people are trying that, and it's all under the same umbrella.
I think it depends on at what level you're talking about. And it's similar with, like a military conspiracy, right? It's like, if I talk about some terrible thing that the Joint Chiefs of Staff or the Navy research division, it's not every sailor in the Navy is killing kids and molesting aliens or whatever. But like the brass, however, they are. And so, Blockstream's probably got 40 or 50 people that are working as employees of that company that probably actually kind of care about their vision and making the company good and have their own big ideas about what Bitcoin should be. But when you get up to like your Austin Hill and guys like that, I mean, they were very clearly like, these are just Silicon Valley guys. They're like, look, you pile a bunch of money together, you decide how it's going to play out. And the people that he was doing it with, again, your Reid Hoffman, Peter Thiel, like those types, like these are PayPal mafia guys. These are guys that are very much integrated into not exactly TradFi. They're like the disruptors of 25 years ago. And they want to see the PayPals and Venmos and those kind of things become the big thing, right? Like they want to replace the banks with that. And for them to invest in a company like Blockstream, I think they wanted to see like, okay, like maybe we can do it through this vehicle, but even if we can't do it through this vehicle, at the very least, we're writing everyone's checks. And if it starts to play out in ways we don't like, we've got that puppet string to pull. And that's really how big finance thinks. They have not just one vision. They're not all in like, wow, your pitch deck is great, I'm changing my religion. They're looking at it and saying, okay, like I would love to control you, and if I can't control you, I'll kill you. and me investing in you is that deal. It's the two-sided coin right there. It's, hey, either we all get successful together, and that's great, or if you become untenable to the part of my portfolio I care about in 5 years, we just wrap you up and you go away. So
yeah, I think that the existential threat that Bitcoin posed to the financial system was that you not only the central bank, but the banks and the payment providers would all just have to basically erase their model, right? Their profit model. And there's plenty of room for payment processors and other things like that in a crypto-only world, but it's a very much reduced kind of thing. There's not as much fee capture you can get. And so just like, let's terraform Bitcoin so it works as just, the central banks can get screwed. We don't care about them. But let's have this layer that we can park a thing on. And then the larva stage ones, like the liquid, and then lightning to a certain extent, although Jack Dorsey kind of gave it new life, I would say. With Square and all
he
that.
Did.
And then, whatever, cashew, Fetamin, whatever nonsense they do in there, that didn't really pan out. But it does seem like the permissioned L2 kind of like the Ethereum world does seem to have stuck a lot more as far as like stable coin rails and the USDC and PYUSD and all this kind of stuff, as that seems to have actually sort of worked out. So I would argue that the hijacking of crypto, not just Bitcoin, was, I would say in an absolute scale, maybe not successful, but for a temporary time was successful and gave this, but not in the way that the block streams were kind of like the pioneers of the hijacking scam. They kind of tried things out that didn't work, that others, successors, did try things out, and they did maybe
for sure
better.
Well, and I think it's relevant too when you look at a company like Tether, for example. I think Tether probably started out as a basically like, hey, here's a good idea, let's see if it runs, and then they got sort of co-opted into this whole bubble of kind of all of crypto, right? Like the Tether's parent company iFinex is one of the major investors in Blockstream, but they've also invested in lots of other things, and it's on 10 chains now and whatever. So they're pretty widely like, just use Tether and we're friends. But if you look at, how did this stuff get seeded, right? So you start looking at like Digital Currency Group, which was investing in everybody in the early days. Well, look at the LPs in Digital Currency Group. It's all TradFi payments companies. So I always point out, I always say MasterCard. And people are like, it's not just MasterCard, but I'm making the point that, well, you've all heard of MasterCard. And so if MasterCard is investing in Digital Currency Group, which is, by the way, not a fund, they're like an incubator and accelerator, which means they want to get their fingers into your startup and guide you. So, okay, what is MasterCard's guidance going to be on blockchain startups? And at the same time, look at MasterCard's patent portfolio in the space. They have hundreds of patents on stablecoin technology all around, all of it. Like, here's where it is at point of sale. Here's how settlement works. Here's the gateway stuff. Here's how it gets to the banks. Here's how you can issue real world assets and blah, 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 blah. And so they are like, hey, how's a bunch of money sound? You sit and fiddle with all this stuff over here. So they pay off all the like libertarian, anarchist, cypherpunk types, get them working on this little sandbox, while the actual people that work in the patent department over at MasterCard get to glean from that technology and turn it into their fortress. And so now a company like Circle comes out with USDC or whatever else, and it's like MasterCard doesn't even care. It's like, bro, just keep inventing it, because when we decide to pull the rug on you with a gigantic IP lawsuit, it's just going to make sense for you to say, okay, how about we just sell our company to you, and Circle Pay just becomes a MasterCard brand, and then it's all one big thing.
Yeah.
And that's likely. I think that is a very plausible outcome that we see in the next couple of years.
Yeah. Or even if it's not, that there's now another MasterCard called Circle, another one called Coinbase, and they kind of join the cohort of things, and Discover can get their shit together, so they're gone. Like, however it works out.
Screw them. They're the fake credit card anyways.
Yeah, they're not the real one. The funny thing is, they always say follow the money. I would say follow the money and the politics, because like I do have a decent amount of exposure from having friends in the local New Hampshire legislative process.
Sure.
A lot of friends and colleagues and stuff like that. And so I know pretty well how the sausage is made on that stuff. And it's very small potatoes, with 400 reps for a state of like 1.5 million. It's very local and I would say real and organic. But even small things like, let's get rid of the concealed carry license, that happened a few years ago.
Yep.
It was a $10 shall issue thing that everyone just got, and then the cop comes out there to argue about the revenue shortfall that will happen from all the people not paying, and just all like the scummy interest groups that show up for these things. So you see that. And so, like, for example, I've made jokes about Consensus, which I go to every year. I call it StableCon now, because of just everything stablecoin people and everything. And Trumps are there too. Like, one of the Trump kids is always going to be there.
Sure.
And then you combine that, and then you look at also who's fighting over what in the legislature on the crypto bills. And it seems like crypto decentralization matrix for SEC versus CFTC. And there's not a lot of like friction on that one. And then even like, self-custody, we'll try that in line, it's fine. And then like, even the privacy stuff even is like, there is some pushback, but not a lot. The major, the secondary fight is on DeFi and yields, that they just want to cap everything there. And the number one thing is on stablecoins. They're battling out. That's what's stopping the bills from going through to the president's signature, is stablecoins, and fighting over Coinbase saying, I'm not going to do it, and everyone freaking out, and the banks saying, your yields are too high, we need to. So stablecoins are like the ground zero for the battle here.
For sure. And to be fair, stablecoins are one of the best ideas that could come out of the space. Like, I think anything related to tokens
it's a terrible idea, but yes, also yes.
Well,
it's both.
Right, it is. I mean, I hate fiat currency. However, it's like it's a really good way to sort of bridge the gap between your normies and your sort of cypherpunk ideal, right? And in theory, even if it's a fiat stablecoin, if it's done right, it actually is like an immutable cash system that you can carry around and blah, blah, blah. It can do a lot of things that were very cool about Bitcoin, just not the way that, Tether and USDC can all totally rug your coins if the CFTC tells you to. But in theory, like the underlying principle there, that you could pay in tokenized gold, you can pay in tokenized silver or salt or, goat futures if you wanted to. And so, like, it's a really good idea for just the concept of payments and legitimizing the liquidity of other assets that are not natively digital. And so on the one hand, like it is like I really like stable coins because of a lot of the problems that it solves, but the way that it's been implemented thus far, I think is really, really problematic, both in the crypto space where it's used as this, I call it the tetheral reserve bank, that, fractional reserve, like here's a bunch of coins, pump what we want, wash out retail and, kill all of them and get us the fiat. But then also the way that CBDCs are likely to be implemented is also an Orwellian nightmare. But the underlying idea, if done well, actually is quite a good idea and a good use of the technology. So we'll probably lose that battle too. But it's but it's worth fighting for, and actually I'm really glad to see a lot of the political class and people, like your Thomas Massey's or whatever being like, no, I completely oppose CBDCs because of the way that they're implemented. And so, it's worth fighting for, but it's a complicated one.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is kind of interesting to see, like, obviously the Bitcoin maximalists ended up winning the block size war for Bitcoin, at least. And then you ended up seeing the market share. I mean, if you discount, I would say the last quarter or two, but especially if you extend it to Bitcoin Cash, I would say the last couple of years there's been an uptrend versus Bitcoin. But everything else, other than that, other than this, the most recent encouraging turnaround, the lead that the maximalists have had is just like solidified. It's just gotten stronger every year. And then the amount of political pressure, like the people who've been actively trying to get to the government. Lest we forget, Matt Corallo or whatever his name is, writing letters to the SEC begging them to regulate Bitcoin forks differently and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
it started back then, but it's very encouraging. All that being said, despite making old Teabag the Bitcoin president and all this stuff, despite going to every single Satoshi Action Fund, going to every single local state legislature and trying to get the strategic reserve, despite El Salvador, despite all that, like, it's very encouraging to see how thin the victory was. Now that we see, like, the Laura Loomers of the world, the Alex Joneses of the world, but everyone, like the wide scale, like how one little Epstein thing just like wipes out the stranglehold in the political scene.
Part of it is that they split the power so hard. I mean, in 2017, it was, I think if you look at early 2017, it was like 98.x% of all stuff going on in the space was Bitcoin. And it has been in a downtrend ever since, right? Primarily because of Ethereum, but then we've had other big players pop up since then. I mean, Solana has become a very significant part of the economy and, all these other things. And so there are now big hubs of people that should have been Bitcoiners that just either don't care or actually want to see BTC get taken down a peg. And the more that grows, the less influence they're going to have, because it's very similar to the United States, right? Like in 1955, if President Eisenhower told you that something was going to happen, it's like, well, who's going to actually oppose him, right? But now China's real big and powerful, and now India is this big powerhouse of some rapport, and we have to be a little bit careful how we play certain rounds in a chess game, because if we overplay our hand, like, oh, okay, like we are not the powerful monolith that we were a generation ago, and those generations happen a lot faster in the blockchain space. But your Bitcoin maxis, who were speaking from a position of near absolute autonomy at the time, they have a lot fewer allies as a percentage than they did in 2017, and that's also going to matter. There are a lot of people that would love to see some serious takedown, especially even inside the BTC camp. You have your knots people that want to see Bitcoin Core taken down a notch too. And so even in their own, alleged monolithic camp and Bitcoin can't change, there are people that really want to see, some of the lions of the core repo and Blockstream and whatever else get ousted. And so they've got revolution internally. They've got huge growth of their enemies on the outside, and that doesn't bode well for the next few years of BTC maximalism. I think they're in a really rough spot from an alliances standpoint on top of everything else.
I think that's the biggest rough spot because when you think about what you can, everything is a value exchange. Every friendship is a value exchange. Everything is something like that. And when you have, you don't provide technological value. It's not like, well, we need to use Bitcoin because it just works. And you just say, no, we're going to stifle that and make people come because of the other two values, which is, interpersonal values and the most connected interpersonal network, as in the maxis know everyone. They really killed that one off. And the biggest one of those was the El Salvador leak from the Litecoiners, when the Litecoiners like, dude, we helped you get into El Salvador and you cut us out, you backstabbing bastards. Right. Like that last straw, if you get rid of the Litecoiners, you've gone really far. Yeah. And then the only thing you have left at that point is the number go up, right? You're paying people to be maxis by the number going up. You ape into Bitcoin and therefore it goes up. And playing too fast and loose on that, now that's starting to shake. And it's always like you can pay off a lot of people, right? And I would say the hyper principled or hyper autistic or whatever are the ones who just are immune to that and just like flip as soon as the rest doesn't work out. But everyone else who already kind of flipped in their hearts, they kind of come along as long as they're being profitable. Like, well, I will delay the revolution another year because the money's too good. It's kind of the way people work in the head.
For sure.
But as soon as that money starts not being good, the rats flee the sinking ship, and we might be seeing a little bit of that right now.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's, again, it's when you have a mercenary army, you got to keep them fed. And so especially, when you look at you can go look at your plan B chart, which used to be the like, oh my God, we're all going to be so rich. It's going to be $1 million of Bitcoin every friggin' cycle. And every time that promise gets broken, you get people a little more angry. And, I'm thinking about the guys that became hardcore Bitcoin maxis in the last 3 years. And it's like, bro, you should have bought NVIDIA. You could have just been in the S&P 500, should have bought gold and silver. Like you would have been more wealthy not being a BTC maxi since the end of the pandemic. So, when people start seeing that opportunity continue to go to other places, it's going to be a big problem. Especially, it's just a basic math problem, right? Mm-hmm. Michael Saylor,
on that.
It's just math, yeah. But Michael Saylor keeps talking about it's inevitable and blah blah blah, and it's like, it is not inevitable that $20 trillion of liquidity is going to make its way into BTC to push you to $1 million a coin, because there's a lot of other stuff in the world that people can invest in and get better percentage gains. And so why are they going to give you their liquidity when they could be making money? And just think about AI stocks on top of all the, every 15-year-old kid I know is trading silver in the last 3 months and stuff too. It's like, they don't care. They want to make the fiat gains. They're not whatever the heck, Austrian economics wonks and Bitcoin is digital gold. Like nobody's out there reading Hayek the way they want everybody to. And
if they were, they probably wouldn't be into B maxis anyway. But that's
well, right. Subject. I think that's the interesting thing. Like, go look at the silver subreddit, and it's the same stuff. It's like, all right, we're gonna have a course on fiat currency, and it's the same conversation, except they're all actually, they're like, here, I'll sell you some Morgan silver dollars or some 40% silver Kennedys and blah 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 blah. And but they're the same basic conversations about the problems of fiat and why silver's hard money and it's never going to change and all this crap. And like, they're losing the narrative. And it's so easy to access those markets. Everybody can go get a Robinhood account or whatever else and go trade whatever it is you care about. So if you can get completely red pilled on Mises and Rothbard and just look at Bitcoin and be like, why would I bother?
Yeah, of course. That's kind of, the economics thing is kind of a funny thing, because I did make a random post today that did way better than I thought so far, which was, I remember when Bitcoiners used to know more about economics and finance than anyone else. Now Bitcoiners are some of the most financially illiterate people in the room, like even failing at basic math stuff. What happened? And my favorite comment that I've read so far, I've been too busy to read a lot of the comments, was from, shout out to Free Bandito, said, I have a friend who is a maxi and works in finance. About 6 months ago, he asked me what those long whiskers are on charts. So
Nice.
thank you for providing me, Free Bandito, with this punchline to the post. But it is funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as a consequence of all this, I would say the real like time preference, right? The Maxi world loves to talk about that, but doesn't really understand it. That it seems like the fundamentals do not ever really matter in the very short term. It just, you don't eat a bunch of kale and work out and stuff for 3 weeks and see anything really reasonable for results, right? It takes, you can, maybe a little bit, but then it takes like month after month and year after year of this discipline before you start, oh my gosh, this is the way to go. And it's like, if you just, have like a pint of seed oil every day or whatever, you're not going to die right away. It's going to take a while, right?
Yeah.
And so most people forget about it. And so that's the thing about like surviving the Bitcoin hype, the maximalist bull, is you survive long enough and then your day comes, but not necessarily you have to work for it. But more importantly, all the problems with Bitcoin that we've talked about since 2015, 16, whenever we started talking about it, right? All those things are like starting to come to fruition. And I'm going to highlight this. I think you must have reposted it, this Eli's post here about the critical turning point in Bitcoin's history. It needs incredible rise in price to maintain revenue. At a capped transactional throughput, miners he'll write it better next time, forced to rely on the perpetual rising price of Bitcoin to supplement their rewards. As it stands, it's at a crossroads without base layer scale, miner revenue being more and more dependent on fees, Bitcoin price must go up. So this is something that our buddy Justin Bonds talks about a lot when he talks about the security ticking time bomb, that is what I call
big time.
That it's starting to become like the margins are getting thinner and thinner, and then the security of it is starting to get worse and worse. And then we're having more and more dependencies from custodians, such as like the BitHum crash, where basically Saylor's entire stack worth of paper Bitcoin got printed instantly. And then then people started to sell, and then the whole the death candle there. So it's interesting to see that kind of come to fruition.
Well, the mining economy too. I mean, just look at the quarterly reports from like Marathon or Riot or Hut 8, some of these publicly traded people that have to say what they're doing, and it's like, well, we would have lost money for 6 quarters in a row, but we made it back in curtailment agreements and carbon credits and some of this other stuff, and we're converting our own treasury to BTC, and if we keep buying BTC, the price will keep going up, and that's going to make our balance sheet work. It's like, okay, you can't even make money mining because of how broken the mining economics already have been for a few years now, and that's a big part of that ticking time bomb, is that your miners now are not acting rationally because they're making all their money off of playing financial games. They're playing games with their stock. They're playing games by leveraging their BTC treasuries on their own balance sheets. And then they're making all their money in proximity to the power companies. And again, like with the carbon credits and like all this other stuff that isn't Bitcoin. And so that economy is getting really out of balance too. And this is all just symptoms of exactly what Justin is really good at explaining. But it's that quote unquote security budget, like, the miners will do what we're going to tell them to do because they're going to seek profit. It's like, well, they have sought profit almost completely out of the Bitcoin space. I challenge anybody to go read the quarterly reports from the publicly traded mining companies, and Bitcoin revenue is like 10% of the money that they actually make on their balance sheet. They're otherwise operating primarily in the energy industry and secondarily in TradFi again. And then the Bitcoin part of it is like, well, but, we're a Bitcoin company first, and it's just it's nonsense, and it's because those economics are broken and have been broken for a lot of years now.
Yeah, so I'm sure you have a better perspective on the mining industry than most people in the space. What is it like for? I mean, we kind of mentioned a lot about like the Maxi world or like the BTC kind of world, but as far as like maybe the rest of the space or like or the holistic view, is that something that you're having to deal with as well? Like, are you having to play these kinds of crazy games? Are you having to mostly like energy credits and stuff, or what?
Big time. I mean, it's made it that if you're trying to run a non-publicly traded company, it's very, very difficult. Like we're doing the same thing with like the curtailment agreement stuff because we're just a big power consumer. But in order to scale that stuff up and to make it a big enough chunk of money, you got to be quite big, and it's a harder hump to get over. And so, and you've seen a lot of people that were Bitcoin maximalists who are like, man, I'm just going to mine Litecoin. Like, just get me some script miners, and I'm going to mine Litecoin because you can merge mine it with Doge, and it's more profitable. And people are scrambling to try to figure out how to just make enough money to keep paying the bills. And you see those political, like, I'm a Bitcoin guy forever. Like, really, what's your fleet? Like, 90% Litecoin miners because I have a power bill that has to get paid, like that kind of thing. And so, politics are great, but this is like what I said about being a mercenary army. They joined for the, oh, cool, I'm going to get rich if I'm just patient for 3 or 4 years. And now they're 6-7 years into this thing. And they're like, man, I'm still like, I didn't get rich. I like maybe made a little bit of money now, but it's really a mess, and it's a mess across all chains. And then again, because we have to buy the rigs based on essentially the value of Bitcoin and their potential to ROI and all this crap, and you're competing against Marathon and Riot and whatever to buy ASICs of all chains. So you have to compete against their buying power, which is arbitrarily inflated. And it's like, okay, this just sucks. Like, everything in the infrastructure side of the blockchain space really actually sucks now because of the problems created by this terrible decision making that was made by this small group of people that really suck, frankly.
Yeah, of course. Now, do you think that this exposes like a bigger problem with mining beyond just Bitcoin specific woes? Like, as far as the way things are shaking out now, it doesn't sound like, I don't know, how well do you think mining as it is today, not conceptually, proof of work as a consensus or anti-Sybil mechanism is a much bigger conversation probably. But how much do you think the state of mining today actually contributes to both security and on a secondary note, I would say, governance of specific chains? Do you think it's still relevant, or is it just like a thing that has to happen, therefore people try to build machines to make money and whatever?
I think there's too many people that don't understand, and that's a growing problem. Like, I get people all the time reach out and they're like, hey, do you think I can mine with my gaming laptop? And this, and I'm like, well, not
this stuff.
Yeah, not any of the stuff that's liquid. And and so there's still a lot of people that just really don't get it and then want to take the plunge. And we're really careful because I sell ASIC equipment, and I tell most of the people for the last year, like, hey, I can't in good conscience tell you this is ever going to ROI. And so they're like, so should I mine? I'm like, honestly, probably not. Like, if you don't have a corporation that you need like a big tax write-off and like to be able to play some of these other games that make it a good idea. And they're just like, wow, that sucks. I thought Bitcoin was supposed to be cool, And I'm like, yeah, it really just isn't anymore. It's really just a gigantic irritation in most situations. So, yeah.
Yeah. I know some people who are in mining at a much smaller level, and it seems weird that the ultimate like Schrodinger's miner, he is both only in it for the money and always losing money. Like,
well, right.
It seems to be a situation there where you have the miners are too mercenary is like the critique or whatever, but also are always like losing money on their investment. So Yeah, it's
that's
rough.
partially by design. Like Satoshi wanted people that actually cared about the tech to be the ones doing it. Like you should be roughly breaking even on a daily basis. That's the way the system was designed. Is that okay? Like I'm not getting rich today, but I can see why if more transactions come in and the price goes up, like this could be great. But now, I mean, it's almost anybody that has gotten into mining as an amateur or even like a pretty big middle level mining operation in the last 5 or 6 years, I mean, they're falling apart. All the hosting companies, everybody is like, man, I really hope I get bought by one of these publicly traded miners because I'm struggling. And it just sucks. It sucks because this notion that, well, transactions are bad and store value good and all that, just everything else. And then the chains that can scale don't get enough use to scale. And so they're in trouble too, because, it's like BSV, for example, like we'd be doing great if the average block size was 50 gigabytes, but the average block size is a few megabytes. And so, because we're one of 10,000 chains you can use to transact on, and that is its own problem. So it's just really rough. It's rough.
So do you think that, first of all, do you think that if there was actual transaction scale, and maybe not incredible scale, but just more scale, that this would start to solve the underlying issues with mining that we see today? And also, do you think that there's an actual realistic path for that being it? Because we do see the fee generators kind of like taken over, whether it's like Hyperliquid being the darling of the day, but stuff like Solana as well. And Ethereum's still kind of in the mix a little bit. Clearly it's showing the way to go for blockchains, but none of that is mining. So I don't know. Do you think it has a potential to solve these kind of like the miner malaise?
It's necessary. I've said it for a lot of years. People keep telling me like, oh, BSV and Bcash and all this stuff, like it's all going to zero. And I tell everybody, I'm like, look, if we go to zero, that's the canary. We're the canary.
It's all
in
going
the
to
coal
zero,
mine.
but all means all.
all. Yeah. I mean, Bitcoin is fundamentally designed to be used as a huge transaction processing network. And now that all of that is stripped out of BTC, I have no idea how it takes care of itself in the next 10 years. I can't think of a way that happens without a complete flushing of the people that are in control of everything. Like that is the only possible way that goes away, but I don't see how that happens. So, because even the people right now that are trying to replace Bitcoin Core want even less transactions on the damn network. So it's like, okay, like you are on a sinking ship and you're all too dumb to see it. And the lifeboat, like everybody's decided or been told is a giant scam. And that's when I say the lifeboat, I literally mean any other blockchain that isn't so dogmatic about transactions bad. But, even just something like SegWit being added to almost all of the other forks of Bitcoin, they're just like, I don't know, we're going to follow Bitcoin Core's security path. Like that's also a giant problem for scalability. Like SegWit chains don't scale for their own reasons. And you need scale. It's just like anything. It's like, would you get into a business that can't scale? Like, hey,
not unless I was like a sole proprietor of my little muffin shop that I just wanted to do.
Sure, like make enough money, live your lifestyle, right? Like I would run a jujitsu gym and have 50 students, and that's all I need, right? Like that's fine. But would you invest thousands or millions of dollars into such a? No, obviously not. So if you're going to ever get an ROI out of any of these blockchains long term, that's a problem that has to be solved. And essentially, nobody's actually working to solve it. I think, your Caspa, Solana, like there are some people that actually care about it, but they're so few and far between. And again, the fact that like your SWI and Solana and Caspa and your BSV and like all these people aren't coordinating and all working on one thing means that, hey, even if we have a breakthrough, like nobody's got more than like 10,000 users, and then that isn't investable. And if it's not investable, then you can't get it to, like you reach out to venture capital or reach out to other people and like, oh, cool, you have a really scalable system. How many people use it? And like, well, there's 80 transactions a day. And it's like, oh, okay, you're just an idiot. And so you have to create terminal velocity to get the damn rocket to take off. And there's 10,000 people building crappy rockets right now instead of, maybe 3 to 5, which is what a healthy economy would look like. You'd have like a Pareto distribution and people that are like, man, I don't know, one of these 5, probably 2 of those 5 are actually going to get to space, and then everyone's going to figure out the best one, and then just that's the one everybody uses. And I guess we're all either too stupid or too psyoped to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, that does go towards the basic economic stuff I was complaining about, where a lot of people, I do think that very few people understood Bitcoin who were involved in it at the high level after 2017. And those who did understood which parts to control in order to ensure profitability. Yep. And I kind of feel like everyone big, whether it's ETFs, whether it's governments, whether it's just anything else, doesn't really get it too much. They just kind of accept that all the money that's been thrown at Bitcoin because it's representative of this massive technological revolution, they just think, well, this must work. And they haven't done the basic math, or maybe they have and they just don't get it, but they just don't say anything yet because, well, it must be working, I guess, even though it doesn't make sense to me.
And they're just riding it. They're riding it like a trade. That's all anybody has turned it into. So all this TradFi money, your Larry Fink, or even the Donald Trump with his strategic Bitcoin reserve, he's just like, I don't know, man. Like I'll just buy it. If the number goes up, I'll look like a hero, and if it goes down, it's just like every other piece of crap on the balance sheet, right? Like it just doesn't actually matter after a certain point. And if nobody's principled, like it's just any other thing. It's like, I don't know, I'll invest in 50 million startups, and if 50 of them hit, like, cool, I made enough money. That's fine.
Yeah, of course. It's like the shotgun strategy.
Right.
Yeah, so let's sort of like wrap up with this philosophical or prediction thing, speaking of prediction markets and stuff. How much rope do you think the industry has left? And obviously we've been, picking on Bitcoin and the maxis a lot, but it's like the whole industry kind of, other than a couple people, actors. So do you think, how many more years do you think we have until the ghost chains, which is almost all the chains?
Yeah, a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, and even the good ones, like Litecoin's doing very well at a couple 100,000 transactions a day, but at scale that we need, that's still a ghost chain, right?
Right.
So how long do you think we have until that just like starts to like die? Like how long do you think we have for the startup phase to be over, and these things need to be, not pre-revenue startups anymore, but actually have revenue?
Right. So we're right in the middle of a halving cycle. So in 2 years, we got the next Bitcoin halving. There will be another bull run that happens from it. I think that bull run will be very disappointing. And then at the end of that, just like it has been, right? It's like, 60,000% 2012 to 2017. And then it was 15,000% from there. And then it was only like the last bull run, top to bottom, was a few 100%, right? And so if the next bull run tops out at like 200K on BTC before it starts just dribbling off forever and turning into a bear market, everyone's gonna be like, okay, why did I spend 4 years stacking sats for for this nonsense, right? And then I think at that point, it's just going to be like, your financial projection people are looking at it and saying, okay, this is very clearly run its course and we're done. And then when that drip out happens, it affects everybody. I think the only plausible way that goes another direction is if some major system ends up being used. Like I'm a big believer in using the chain for cybersecurity and identity solutions. And like if somebody can absorb that stuff, and I'm working on these things in the BSV ecosystem, because I'm just like, hey man, I'm going to go big or go home, because we're all going to go home if we don't win anyways.
Of course.
So, if you can create millions of transactions an hour on one of these chains, all of a sudden that infrastructure, that investment, that hash power and all that stuff will make its way to that thing, because it'll be the only thing left. And if that doesn't happen, I really think we're looking at not 2 years, because in 2 years it'll be the bull run. I think in somewhere between 3 and 4 years, it's going to be very clear whether we are going to actually become a disruptive part of the global economy, or whether it's like, all right, we failed to scale, we failed to get adoption, and like anything with a halvening, which is a ticking time bomb, anything with a halvening is going to be done, and then it's gonna roll back into like, okay, Bitcoin was just like Karma or eCash or BitGold or any of these other things that was a cool idea but couldn't get out of its own couldn't get out of the gates, and it took a lot longer, but it ultimately failed to launch too. And then I think there's a big reorganization period.
Yeah. So that sounds about like, it seems like the next bull, the next bear, because this is, we're in the bear now is one of the two.
Yep.
Who knows? But like probably we're in the first of two bear years is this one.
Probably.
And by the time the next two hit, that's gonna kill the rest off. Not just weaken, but like it's done. Like you need to get your revenue, because as soon as the bull starts to dip the next time, last train out of Dodge. Yeah.
Well, there's so much other opportunity. I mean, who with big money is not going to be putting money into Anthropic and OpenAI and all these other things right now? Like that's where the big hockey stick is right now, and there's just not a reason to be riding it out on this ridiculous BTC cycle. And I think that's how it's going to play out. And then all your people are going to say, oh, great, it took me 6 years to make 2 or 3x. Like, I'm never doing this again. Yes. And then that's it, bottoms out.
Yeah. So now who's going to start like macro strategy and is going to get everyone, instead of like you put in fiat and you buy Bitcoin, you put in your Bitcoin, and then they increase your yields after a few years by covertly putting it all in the S&P 500 to get actual yield, and then this like this thing actually outperforms Bitcoin over the next cycle, and they're like, oh my gosh, how did you do it?
What a genius!
500 coin, man.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be somebody. There will obviously be other places to play weird, scammy rocket opportunities, but I think this one might be in its death throes.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, cool. Let's do shill o'clock then. Hit me with what you want to shill, and we'll wrap it up. Other than your X, which I'm throwing up on the screen, so you can follow you with a nice little wheeled banana in the banner.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, let us know what you're up to.
Big stuff. I really want people to join my channel on YouTube. I'm trying to grow. It's the same handle as X. It's Kurt Wuckert JR. I'm going to be doing a live breakdown of OpenClaw, which is the AI tool that has taken the world by storm, and it's had 3 names in 3 weeks. So the Claude-bot, Molt-bot, and now OpenClaw. But also how tools integrate into it. I've got gorillapool.com. So anybody that wants to mine after hearing what I've talked about as the bloodbath, like, come join us. I've also have openprotocollabs.com. Super excited about. We are doing basically AI integration using the BSV blockchain as a checkpoint on all of the crap that can go crazy on AI. So I've said it a couple times in here. Identity solutions, able to make simple smart contracts in an agent-to-agent capacity. Like, all that tooling is being built by Open Protocol Labs, at which I am a partner. And then we have the beopen.io site that is connects to all of our GitHub repos. We have tons, like literally hundreds of free tools. We have Claude skills and all these things for launching blockchain applications, both front-end, back-end, databasing stuff. Fun tools. So anybody who wants to build, the ability to build blockchain apps is one of the things we're trying to build up over there. And I'd appreciate anybody checking it out, using the tools, and asking questions.
Yeah, sounds good. And for everyone else who's out there on X, today is a great algorithmic day to dunk on the maxis because it does very well. I noticed in the last quarter, I would say, X reach and engagement has been absolutely terrible, and it's been pretty much entirely algorithmically shifted. So like my regular posts get like, single to low double digit likes. And then but if I tap into the zeitgeist, as I clearly have yesterday and today, you get the hundreds of likes and the woo,
There
and
you
the
go.
market goes again. So this is a great time if you are monetized on X to like actually squeeze something out of it. And don't forget to call the maxis who can't afford premium, call them brokies.
Love it.
All right. Sounds good. All right, let's wrap this up. Thanks for being on. It's been a good time.
Thank you, Joel. Always a pleasure.
Yep, sounds good. All right, peace, everyone. Bye-bye.
Adam, we're here because we love you. And we're all tired of watching you get abused.
Abused? By who?
Hi, I'm Visa. I charge you 29% interest, 3% foreign fees, and make you wait 3 days to see if your payment went through.
But I thought you were my friend.
No, Dash is your friend. Instant, private, under a penny, and with Dash Spend, you walk into over 100,000 stores and pay like a boss.
All ready? Yeah. Awesome. Thank you very much. Feel alive, guys. This is awesome. Tastes like freedom. And I save 5% by using the app.
That's the Dash High, baby.
Let's go.
Download the mobile wallet, one tap, boom, financial sovereignty.